Ladies and gentlemen, we are back in studio. I am so glad to see you all out there. I'm glad you're tuning in. We're a little bit off schedule today. We were going to start at 2, but we're, hey, it's a makeshift community paper. No, I'm just kidding. It's a community paper. We're trying to do great things for the community.
You got to roll with the punches a little bit, right? It's people are available and things. So.
Yeah, and that's Mark's voice, of course. But also in studio, I have our great general manager of Doe Valley, Eddie Bohannon, and I also have Mayor Pace of the city of Brandenburg. We're going to get into a lot of topics today. There's a lot of festivities, a lot of activities going on. Guys, Wave, glad to have you on the show. Thank you so much. We're going to get into a lot of stuff that I know, David, y'all ripped the Band-Aid off a couple weeks ago in the regular session of the city council meeting. And then, let me see here. I'll try to get the right one up. And then it caused a stir, whirlwinds going around. And Eddie, I know that y'all have got so much going on out at Doe Valley, especially coming into next week. Tell us what's happening. I know the excitement's up, the community's involved. I talked to the Garrison last week. They've got their event, and it seems like we did a great job offsetting. So talk to us.
So the big thing we got going on this Saturday, the 29th, is our fireworks celebration. That's something we work towards every year. Work with the city, work with the police force and the fire department for safety and be ready for that. But it's open to the public. I think that's the big takeaway I'd like to come across today. Is we'll open our gates up at, I think it's 5 or 6 o'clock in the afternoon. We're going to have food trucks. We'll have ice cream trucks. We'll have bounce houses, things for the kids.
Awesome.
A lot of things we'll have going on the lake. The lake will be just covered in boats.
I bet. So and then where is the drop point? Where do I sit for the best seat coming from not Doe Valley?
So from the best seat would be on the west beach side down by the S&T Club.
Okay.
That way you could see straight over. The fireworks display goes off at the old parking lot by the dam.
So the dam will be closed off, so you can't even get in.
That's correct.
You'd have to go around the other way.
You'll have to come in the back gate or come around to the S&T gate.
Okay.
That's correct.
And then will those gates be open, or will they have to call the gate guards?
No, they'll be open. The gates. We're going to open the gates at, I think it's either 5 or 6 o'clock.
Okay.
They'll be open until the festivities are over.
So essentially, what you're saying is Independence Day begins this Friday.
Well, yeah, I mean,
but we kick it off with Doe Valley rocking the stage.
It would be hard for us to put this event on in the middle of the week for the 4th, just because of logistics.
You're trying to be like the state of Iowa and be the first one to have a primary.
That's exactly right. That's what we're trying to do.
First fireworks of the year.
Yeah, but we're looking forward to it. It's always a really good turnout.
Okay. I think I was amazed the first time I went. Of course, you weren't here at the time. I think it was a different general manager. And Vicki and I went down there before we had the kids, and it was a beautiful fireworks show. I mean, y'all probably put a ton of money. I don't even want to know the sticker shock of what that is, but it is definitely as good as going to a big city and seeing a huge fireworks show. I would say it's as comparable to Fort Knox's fireworks show, equally invested.
So would like to expand on that a little bit. One of the things we like to do throughout the year is do some fundraising for that. We like to have, since it's open to the public, and what we do is we get a lot of folks who like to donate to that, and then we'll put their business on our newsletter.
Okay.
We show that in our website and our newsletter, and we get a lot of takers, inside and outside of Doe Valley. We want this to be a community event, not just a Doe Valley event.
I'm gonna add that to the list of things we need to help fix when we do the website, a donation page. So interesting. How many vendors help to put this together then? Do you know off the top of your head?
There's typically 20, 25.
Okay.
And a lot of those would be either just folks inside that want to donate. We have a lot of folks who come in the office and, hey, here's $100, put this towards the fireworks display.
Yeah. Now, you and obviously Mayor Pace, y'all have a great relationship working between the city of the community of Doe Valley and then the city of Brandenburg. Obviously, we share water and some other things, right? So, Mayor Pace, when is the 4th of July festivities for Brandenburg? Because I personally have a camping spot down by the water. So tell us about that.
The fireworks are put on through the Chamber of Commerce, and it's a bash over Brandenburg, I believe is what they're calling it, but it'll be on Friday, July the 5th.
So right after the 4th.
Went for a better price. You can't believe the difference in the price from the 4th to the 5th. And it was hard, like Eddie said a while ago, it's just almost impossible to do it during the week.
Yeah, and if we lived in like California, where you could look across the entire place from one point and see the Earth curve, you know, where Anaheim and all these other places are launching their fireworks at the same time, that's great. But they're also like 4 hours apart in real traffic time. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So I think it's great that between the two communities and then our neighbors at Fort Knox and Radcliffe, it's like you almost can celebrate fireworks every night of the week. Or building up to the.
Well, I'm gonna say, if you look around the neighborhoods, they all are.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, they started a couple of nights ago around us. So
yeah,
it's always. I mean, I love the 4th of July. It's one of my favorite times of year, not just for the fireworks and such, but just the family time.
Absolutely.
And the family time and the patriotism of it. I mean, the fact that we're celebrating something big that happened, 240 years ago, something like that, right? And I think it's a big deal that we continue to celebrate that as a nation. So
absolutely.
I'll completely agree.
Yeah.
I'd like to thank Doe Valley and Eddie and them. It is great that they do open it up to the community. I really think that's an asset. You don't want that separation. And I found a spot. It wasn't the premier spot, but it worked out perfect last year. I got in. My grandchildren got to see the fire, and I was first one out. I think so.
That's a good spot to be in.
It was a good spot.
Now this year we won't be able to go over to Doe Valley because we have a family reunion that's happening the same weekend. So unfortunately, we won't even be in town for it. But we should be home for the Brandenburg fireworks. But
one of the things we like about having these types of events from a family aspect is just seeing all the people together. I mean, it's something that we did as children here. I grew up here as a kid, and there was always big events going on in the summer. And we just don't see that anymore, especially through all the COVID and things like that. People
I
just
think
separated.
COVID has started bringing some of it back a little bit.
I agree. I
really do. I think if we can take anything away from COVID, it made families remember that hey, you need to get together a little bit, because when we were forced apart and we couldn't go see each other, you started missing it, and you took it for granted a little bit before that.
Well, one thing I like about what the city is doing specifically, there's always something going on down by the boat docks now, car shows and just different things, and it's really nice to pull down there in my old car and see all the people. It's just really neat to see everybody coming together. And that's something that we've been missing.
Don't take it
in
for
our town
granted.
forever. Exactly.
Yeah. Don't take it for granted, because if it may not be there, one day.
Sure.
So we also.
So I was actually, we did, my wife and I and my sister was in town. We did a 5K run for a young lady that donated her organs, and it's a organization that promotes that, right? Because it saves somebody else's life. We were down there, and even at the pavilion, somebody rents the pavilion every weekend, and it was these pickers and grinners, and I absolutely loved it. You walk up and they're all sitting around a circle. Somebody start a song, and then they all start playing the song, and there's always something going on down there.
Cool.
And I think is very attractive to.
And there's a lot of talented people in Meade County like that, right? I mean, there's people all over the county that there's a lot of bluegrass players in this area. I remember when I was growing up, there were a lot of little garage bands and stuff that were playing. Remember the fair used to have a battle of the bands and things. Yeah.
That would be neat if we could bring that back. I would really like to.
You gotta have the bands to do it, but
I don't know if we can find Coyote Calhoun anymore. He emceed it for us, to be honest. That was big time for Brandenburg.
It was.
Well, maybe I'll be the new MC, and we'll just bring it back and get the garage bands out of the closet.
So one thing I did want to add, on the same day as the fireworks display in the morning, we're having a 5K run.
Oh, okay.
In the community, so that's out there.
Oh, very good.
We want to get as many people.
Where do you go to register for that?
It's a website. I'll send that over.
We'll put it in the chat. We'll put it in the chat and get it out there for if you're watching this podcast and you're interested in doing that. I definitely want to drive some traffic towards that, because again, the funds help to do these types of activities that not only support the Doe Valley community, but support its neighbors, the Meade County community and our neighbors. So, and you have a large population that lives in Doe Valley and also works at Fort Knox too. It's a very mix between the Nucor and the Monument Chemical and just all the businesses and small businesses. It's a very diverse community, much like Brandenburg is.
It is. We have 85 plus employees, which you wouldn't think that just driving around.
Right.
And in the mix of the summer, it can get upwards of 100 with some of the summer help and things like that. So we have a lot of folks who live there, have a lot of folks who work there, and years ago, Doe Valley was looked at as a different organization, different place to live than it is now. Now it's really a neighborhood.
Yeah,
I mean, it really
absolutely.
is. I mean, yep, there's security and there's a gate, but it really is just a neighborhood. I mean,
Yeah.
you never know, the guy you're going to be going to the grocery store beside, he may be there as well. So that's why it's so important for us to entrench ourselves into Brandenburg. We're all one big community.
Yeah. So interesting too is you guys actually still have, which is it's not out there, but it's out there. But you still have a lot of buildable lots that are still within the Doe Valley community. A lot of people get frustrated because I want to live in Doe Valley, but I can't because there's no houses for sale. But you can build. And I know me and you were briefly talking about this, but I know that the new VA loan, you can actually build a home. You don't even make a payment until they hand you the keys, which is an interesting process. If you were retiring military like me or somebody, or even if you didn't and you just wanted to build, but you guys have specific builders, how does that work?
Well, we have a few builders that do build in the community. We don't really exclude anybody unless we've had some issues with somebody, which would be anywhere. So several lots out there are for sale through Doe Valley.
Yeah.
Several lots are for sale through realtors from people who bought them years ago, and they're for sale. So what we want to do from Doe Valley perspective is do a better job of showcasing what we have available,
Right.
which is not just the lots to build on, but also what does the community offer? You know,
Right.
we have a nice lake, we have a nice golf course, which is open to the public. You know, we have
And getting better.
restaurants.
I mean, the golf course is becoming
Beautiful.
It's becoming a good feature, a big feature, I think.
Yeah, about 4 years ago, we put down the Bermuda grass, and it really helped. It really kept it
making it look
green,
nice.
greener much longer. And we've done a really good job of adding more sprinklers and just different things throughout over the years of making it a better place.
It really
to play.
shows. It really shows.
And we get a lot of feedback, you know, from we have a kind of a deal with the MIC where if you're a member of one, you get a discount to
That's
the
good.
other.
That's
So we share back and forth a lot. And then we have tournaments back and forth between each other. So we do feel like we've come a long way with our golf course. Obviously, we can always go further and do more, which we want to do. Same thing with our lake. You know, we want to expand our marina. There's a lot of things we want to do.
I'll change my hat for
Go
a
ahead.
moment. From the industrial authority side, Doe Valley is probably one of our premier visits, and we have a perspective company in Doe Valley is one we save to the end, kind of to show them what all the amenities are there, and it works. And they've been very gracious to let us take that in without having to have a realtor or have somebody with no pressure on those folks that are coming in. So it really works well, and we can take them to the swim and tennis club. We can take them down to the beach, take them out on a boat. You know, it really pays off because I think several moved in there recently in the last few years. And it was a big asset for the community to have that ability to have workplace homes that close to the workplace.
Yeah.
Sure. And I did want to mention, you mentioned the VA and the military. We have a large military presence in Doe Valley. A lot of those folks obviously are PCSing in and out, but there's a lot of folks who have retired here and it's like, hey, I want to stay here. And they have.
This guy.
And there's,
this
you're
guy.
one of them. So it's a great place to live. I think our numbers are showing that.
Yeah.
The people are showing that. We have great reviews, you know, from our residents. So it's a great community. We just want to enhance it as much as we can.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
if you-
I grew up here, but my wife and I, you know, work pulled us away for a couple of years, and you know, as soon as that, once that ran its course, we were like, oh, we got to go back to Brandenburg. This is home. You know, this is where we go to church. This is where our kids go to school. This is where, you know, we have family and friends in the community, and it's a family type place. It's not just a town. It's not just a county.
Yeah.
It's a family here.
It's a community.
It's a
It is.
community.
Yeah.
But I really feel it's family. I really do. I think it's you know, each person I come in contact with is like a member of my family. Some of them are distant cousins, and some of them are, you know, brothers
Some
and
of them
sisters.
you claim, right?
Yeah, well, you know, there's always a few. There's always one or two in every family, right? But you know, it's there's a lot of love in this community. A lot of people who are willing to help each other and work alongside each other to take care of one another, and that's a big thing.
That was one of the first things when I got in office. I reached out there. Well, I guess when Eddie got reeled in over
Yeah.
there. It worked out good. I reached out to offer our services that any way we could work with them to help out. It's just got to be a great neighbor, because when you start comparing the city of Brandenburg and Doe Valley, we're very comparable in a lot of ways, size, a lot of homes, number of homes. We're about 3,000 citizens in the city of Brandenburg. That's going to be very close in number of homes. We're having a lot of growth in homes right now. We have a lot of lots, not a lot of new homes, but
Right.
there are abilities for us to grow. And if we can't help each other, then we've messed up to begin with.
Yeah, no, and a great segue to get into, I guess, the next portion as we move forward. But before I get too deep into how Brandenburg's doing and then where we're at with the ordinance, safety-wise, you guys have restrictions going on right now regarding fireworks, or what's the limit use for fireworks if you wanted to set off your own personal fireworks? I know that they're for sale here in the community. Do you have restrictions inside of Doe Valley or inside of the city limits?
Our restriction would be whatever the city is and the city, whatever the state does. We don't try to do anything outside of that.
Okay.
The biggest thing right now we've been looking at, and we've done this in the park with everybody that puts on anything. We've been meeting. That's something I've kind of initiated a little better, where, like Eddie was saying, there's so many people at the park every weekend. Well, we started meeting with everybody ahead of time so that they do work together, and we don't want everybody in just one spot the whole
Right.
time. So we're trying to make it where that you're cautious right now of weather. It's been so dry.
Yeah.
that, we're cautioning people, be prepared. Have water hoses, have fire extinguishers, have things like that prepared in case you have an incident. But hopefully last night and tonight and tomorrow we'll get a little more moisture. That won't be a concern.
Okay. So, any last or final comments for Doe Valley? I was going to let you shuttle out if you wanted to, unless you want to stick around for the rest of the show. You're more than welcome to.
Stay for the fireworks.
Well, I'll stay for the fireworks, 'cause this is
Okay.
going to be exciting. I
think it's a
I
great
can't wait to hear
conversation to
this,
have.
and you may need a mediator at some point. I know Mark is good, but he may need some help.
That's
so
great. Well,
I want to
we're-
be there for that. But
we're-
as far as Doe Valley goes, again, just wanted to thank you for allowing me to come on and talk about
Absolutely.
our community. I hope we can do this again.
Absolutely.
And it's been great working with Mayor Pace.
Good.
Again, I was very pleased and somewhat shocked that he reached out to me when I took this position.
Yeah.
And very appreciative that he did that. And he can guarantee I will be reaching out for that support. And hopefully I can reciprocate that.
Yeah.
But I want to make sure that everybody understands that while we are technically a gated community, we want to be a family with the entire community of Brandenburg.
Yeah, I know that feeling with the paper, trying to make it back and build some bridges. So going into this, I know, and Mark, I'm glad you're here on the show today, because there's been so many questions, and of course, anytime you talk about taking money, it gets a lot of language tied to it. Everybody's throwing out the word tax. The physical word for this is called the hold on, I'm going to get it. Occupational employee license, or employee occupational license. And what it is a fee to for those who come to the city of Brandenburg, and as it's written right now, is for those employees who come to work in the city of Brandenburg, that a 1% fee be charged to those individuals and their salary. Now, there's exemptions, and we're going to get into all of that. But Mayor, I'd like you to just kind of, where did this come from? How did it get introduced? What's the problem behind it? And kind of go from there. Mark, go ahead.
I want to say, let me just add on a little bit. First of all, I think all of us understand that the municipalities, counties, cities, states need revenue in order to provide services for the community.
Yep.
All right. So, and there's only so many places that you can get that. But with that said, I think that it's an important thing to understand what is the money needed for, and how did you come to this decision type thing. So
I know his first thing he's gonna say is, I didn't come to this decision. It was presented by somebody. So this is your chance. Just,
I don't mean Mayor Pace.
Good.
I mean
The city.
the city as a whole.
Yeah, very good. All right, go ahead, Mayor.
it's your turn, Eddie.
Oh, no, I'm out of this one.
That's what you get for sticking around.
There you go.
Well, first off, I'm apologize. I've been kind of under the weather for the last 4 days, so I'll do my best. I may be
I can
coughing and
testify
stuff.
to that
so,
too, yeah.
when I presented, well, let me start off. Number one was saying that this is not anything to take anything from somebody. We're trying to keep the city of Brandenburg to be one of the premier places for to raise a family and live. And we want everybody to understand this is not a thing against any employee, any business, anything in the city of Brandenburg. Unfortunate part, I inherited a budget leading up to this year, and it actually was passed in the negative. And unfortunately, the budget came out. It's pretty true. It is still in the negative going into June 30th. There were reserves enough to make sure that we could take care of what those shortages came out to be. The problem we're trying to address, and you can't take money from multiple accounts and intermix them. You have them set up that way. We've got like 14 different checking accounts to make sure you keep things balanced. And this came forward. We're noticing that the cost for doing business in the city of Brandenburg has drastically gone up. But I want to clarify some things a little further in here. But we saw that our general fund, and this is where we're able to do the extra things that are needed for the city to be able to recruit the good young individuals that have gone to college to come back, to make niceties in our park, to do the new bathroom facilities, to be able to put enhanced walking trails in the city of Brandenburg. We'd love to see Buttermilk Falls go all over Brandenburg, to be honest with you. And these are some things that we're trying to make where we can make it for these businesses. And this is something Eddie and I, we talked about, and Steve, just before Mark got here.
Yeah.
We're a city of 3,000 people, of citizens that live in Brandenburg. We gain about 70% of the employment. We almost double in size every day. So our water, our sewer, our utility input has to be able to double every day. And when the school system's in, it's even bigger. So when we say, well, we've got 3,000 families, we could have probably built a sewer treatment plant to handle 350,000 gallons of waste. But we have to build it for 1 million gallons because you have that influx. That's a great thing to have. You've got that much influx to people coming to your community to work every day. But right now, the only people paying for that are the citizens of Brandenburg. And like I said, in the early stage of this, and the first reading is an ordinance, way we always do our ordinances. You put them together and you read the first reading, and it's done exactly what it's intended to do. Number one, you read it, you don't vote on it, you put it out, people get to see it. The problem is we have the lack of communication with a lot of folks. First thing they want to do is be mad. Don't be mad, be helpful.
Yep.
Call us, talk to us. We're friends all the other times of the day and year. Call me if you see a problem. I'm sorry.
I think that's why we're here today is because
We want to get the word out.
We want to give you the not just you the opportunity, but all of us the opportunity to do that, to communicate. This is why we're doing it, right?
Yeah.
This is why Brandenburg's doing this. And I think that this hopefully we give you the opportunity to do that today, and that you can actually answer some of those questions that you've already gotten from maybe some angry folks. But
I've had several calls, but we're still friends. I mean, it's not.
It's not a personal thing.
It's not.
The Brandenburg has to run the city. They have services that they have to provide, and like you said, it increases. And I'm not trying to make excuses one way or the other, because I don't know the entire I don't know the entire budget of Brandenburg, but at the same time, there's no reason for us not to have a civil conversations about what's going on.
Yeah. Hey, so do you know
and communicate.
Yeah, so two things I got for you. Do you know what revenue this would bring, and would it satisfy the requirement of what the deficit is for a long-term fix, or is this will this only do it short-term based on the growth that we're supposed to have? And then two, who's excluded and who's not?
Well, let me kind of back up a step there. But one of the things that we're trying to make sure of, what the ordinance that was read on the last meeting in June.
Great point.
We are reworking that already. We
Yeah.
added some things in there, probably in haste, thinking, well, this needs to be there. And unfortunately, we added not only this in here for the license fee, we had added in there on our business license structure. Our business license structure needs help, but it wasn't the time to combine the two together and to take it all in. So the second reading will have a lot smaller version that'll be a lot more understanding. And to this point, it's still in the attorney's hands right now that I'll be able to give
Yeah.
you more of that information once I have it. But we're asking for that just to be this so we can show these businesses it's not to hurt a business. I'd be slapping myself in the face. I'm out here working to bring businesses every day
Yeah.
to this community. I'm not trying to scare anybody that's here off, not trying to make it where no one would come here. But our whole goal is to make Brandenburg right now, my 24-25 budget that I presented to the city council is in the black. There's not one new vehicle in the 2-year budget. There's not one thing ever in there to improve anything within the city. And the problem with that is we are going to end up in the black at approximately $8,000. We fixed a piece on a generator yesterday was $6,200. So where's my reserve? Immediately, I don't have a reserve.
Much less, well, and to speak to other countywide problems, having the ability to fix infrastructure problems that have long been stewing. I understand that too from many conversations with state senator and House of Rep. Getting to a point where we have a reserve does make a difference for a community, especially when you get a bill like that. That's a great example. So I'm glad you talked about that. And for the viewers that are out there, and Mark, you can chime in on this too, but we have been able to communicate the facts to you. The current reading of that is out there is on the website at meadecountyky.com under this article specifically, and it's up to you to go make your opinion. And two, if you like it or don't like it, I mean, obviously this is the city of Brandenburg. You don't hold a vote for the city unless you live in the city. So that is up to the people and the residents of the city to agree or disagree. And you know, if you love your job, you love your job. If you don't love your job, then that's a different problem set. But to David's point, it's being revised, and it will focus, I think, and just for clarity, is it going to focus solely on the employee occupational and not the business side that you're revising?
There'll be the business side will totally be gone.
Okay.
And the goal of this is to be able to meet and people, and this was already designed. Number one, the second reading is for July the 8th, and this wasn't even supposed to take effect. We're trying our best to make it where we have time to explain to every business. We were going to hold open meetings with businesses. We did to make sure where we were. The issue came up, how do we do that? Well, we weren't going to enact this till January 2025. We wanted to be able to produce our form that each business would know this is what you'd fill out from your business side. You'd present that to the city to be able to store it in our records, and then it would be a quarterly payment. But it's, you know, we're still working on that. And like I said, and you've got issues, call City Hall. I'm talking a little fast. I'm going to slow down here a little bit.
Okay.
But I want us to be able to let the citizens and the business owners, especially the business part that we're taking out, was probably the biggest thing that bothered the business sector.
Sure.
Because it was getting into their gross stuff, some things that we didn't want. I don't need to know that.
Yeah.
I don't care what it is. I just want to try to make it where that business coming to Brandenburg, I have the ability to do a few extra things to be able to help them to grow. And just like our brand new, I call it the food court alley out there, we worked through several as a group effort of the people that were out there, plus the Hartledge family, plus the city of Brandenburg, Industrial Authority, all went together and got that upgraded. You know, it's hard to say that in a 6-year-old business place that it's already needing upgraded, and we're still working on that. So it's those things that we're trying to make better for our community. And please, I ask you to call. Don't I know it frightens you or makes you angry, but don't be mad at the 6 city council members that are a part of this. We're all doing this for the betterment of our community. We're not in this because we want the glory of anything, and I don't know which part that is. I do love this community.
Sure.
I'm born and raised here, gave my heart and soul to this community. If you ask my wife, she thinks I'm married to the community more than I am.
I think my wife's starting to feel the same way. Don't feel bad.
I like to just make a statement if I can, because I think that you can love the community, still do things that are right for the community, but people are still going to be angry about whenever they have to pay an extra tax or an extra. I know we're calling it a fee or what have a license, but let's face facts. It's a tax. It's I want to work in Brandenburg. I'm going to have to pay a tax, and I think it's okay for people to be concerned about that. At the same time, they need to understand. People need to understand that there's a balance in all of this. That there's services and things that happen. You know, you have the water. You have water. You have sewage. You have police department. You have road worker. You have your own
spray.
Yeah, mosquito spraying's a big deal right now. It's a big deal right now, but that costs money.
$783 a barrel.
Nobody, so. And the mosquito sprayer's not walking around, the community asking for $1. Asking for $1 from every house. That has to be paid for somewhere. I think that when people get upset is when they don't understand what the need was and where why the money's coming in, because people start. This is Meade County. Mm-hmm. People start talking immediately when something comes up. Everybody knows everybody, and everybody's in a chain talking to somebody at some point.
But it's only been 2 people that have reached out to City Hall.
Yeah.
Well, no, I get that. I understand that. And it's like,
go by hearsay either.
Yeah.
Just because somebody told you they had been at McDonald's and heard it, this is the gospel. Well, it's the furthest thing from what's actually in that ordinance. And I'm telling people, please breathe right now till we have this new and written, and we'll be able to share this with you.
Right now, it's not in.
No.
Right now, it's under development and being discussed. And this is the time to bring up things and concerns. And do it in a straightforward fashion. Come to the meetings. Come to the council meetings.
Yep.
You have open mic there, right? You talk to them, and say, come to the meeting and ask the questions. Why are we doing this? And it's okay to ask that question. It's okay to say, how's this going to affect me? How much is this going to be? What are we really talking about? Are we talking about, hey, it's going to be, is it going to cost me, $40 a week out of my check? Probably not, right? It's probably going to cost you more like $3 or $4 a week or something out of your check.
Well, a perspective is if you earn $50,000, you're going to pay $500 a year and an employee occupational license.
So then that comes out to about $10 a week.
Before we go too far on what you brought up just a minute ago, I just want to, I hate the word tax.
I know.
Everybody hates the word tax. We put this by researching to find the proper name we wanted for it. And the occupational license fee was what we felt like it was infecting that employee coming to Brandenburg. My selling point of that is it's no different than me having to go. The county just passed last month. It's okay. We're going to raise our solid waste fees 4% for coming and dumping.
Yeah.
Why is that not a tax? I mean, it is a fee to do business. This is basically the same thing as a fee.
It is. I mean, I get your point, and that we can debate that, right? I guess I
do a lot of talking like this anyway. So.
This is the first time we're doing it on the air
That's the
like
same
this,
thing.
though,
Well, listen, that's the same thing, and I'll say this publicly. It's like putting lipstick on a pig. It's tomato, and to get past that, I'm glad that you used a different name to soften it. But I mean, when you're taking money from somebody's paycheck, they're always going to assimilate the 3-letter word versus the 4-syllable word. You know what I mean?
When I'm doing waste management or something like that, though, I'm getting a service. I'm specifically buying a service at that point. When it's if you said that this occupational fee was going for specific things related to occupation, then I would say that's not a tax. In my opinion, it's a tax because now it just goes into a general fund that you can use. And I think that is what really is a distinction. Maybe it's a distinction without a difference, but it's still, I think, to me, I think it's a distinction. But again, it's nothing to get angry about because these are just things that we have to discuss. And I don't think whether you call it a fee or a tax, it doesn't matter. The question is the city needs funds. They can't work in the red. They have to have, in order for these things, they need funds to provide the services that they do. We can get into, that's a whole nother debate of whether or not there's.
We need another show.
Yeah, it's another show. It's probably more like a series, but it's I'm not against any kind of. I'm not against the fee. I do worry about what it does. Like if we have a small business, we're not in the city of Brandenburg, so it doesn't affect us. However,
until you do business in the city.
Well, I don't have to.
And that's questionable. And
well, right, that's going to be a question that comes up. Is so for businesses that come and then do business in the city, and they're having an employee.
What do you mean by do business in the city?
Well, if you're in the city limits and I'm running, my business is actually at my address. It's in another part of the county, but I have a mobile restaurant that is set up for shop in the city limits of Brandenburg. Why not just do?
I got you. Okay,
why
I
not
see.
Just do
so what if I'm doing a? What if?
Why not just do a city of Brandenburg sales tax instead of doing that, and then just do it on revenues earned from? Well,
I mean, you still have the same issue because I'm outside the county. I'm not. Well, if I'm outside the city, I'm not getting taxed. If I'm inside the city, so I mean that's a good point. So like we might do a show like at the fairgrounds or something. Well, that's inside the city limits. So if I pay an employee for to go sit at the show for 8 hours, do I have to pay them the occupational tax in Brandenburg? Well, that's a question.
One of the questions, and that's come up quite a bit, is, well, how do you monitor that? Well, number one is that's already in place. If you're doing work inside the city limits of Brandenburg, you're supposed to be getting a business license to do work in Brandenburg. And that's a big thing of that is HVAC contractors, plumbers that come from Louisville every day to do work in Brandenburg. They are subject to this fee because the number one is it is making everybody equal. If a local business person has to put that in theirs, why should we let somebody else bid it and not have to pay that fee? So that is and that's one of the things in the talking points of this. Yeah. And our whole goal of that is the number one, and that was the 2 points were together. That was cause of that, because the business license, is it fair that I take company A that has 3 employees and I charge them $100 business license in Brandenburg? Company B has 85 employees and I charge them $100 business license.
Yeah.
Is that apple for apple?
Well,
that's why we're trying to say.
Like you look at the Chamber of Commerce. When we join the Chamber of Commerce, it's depending on the size of your business and how much you have to pay to get in. But I do have a question. I think I have a little bit different question though. If they're having a craft show down at the fairgrounds and I sell there, and I have an employee that goes and sits there for that 8 hours, and I have to pay that employee their 8-hour day, do I have to pay a fee to Brandenburg? How do I do that if I'm not even registered in Brandenburg? Well, do I have to register just to go to a craft show?
Most of those are set up. Are set up for us to be able to have that through the chamber for a solicitor's license for a day. Where they can come in, set up for those events. And those are some of the topics that's the reason you have a second reading. And that's kind of the loophole we're still working on right now is how do we make that fair? Yeah. And that's the whole key of this is trying to make it where when somebody's doing business in here, that's what we want them to be the same across the board for everybody. And that's one of the reasons this 8th meeting, we feel like that second reading, and that's why we got till January. That's what I'm trying to tell everybody. We're trying to make, and right now, looking at it going forward, probably there's enough discussions out there to still go on that I see the 8th maybe being maybe a second reading with no vote. The reason I say that is, and I think I'm clear, I'm still waiting back for the attorney on this, is trying to make sure if once we have that second reading, then we're able to talk to every business in the community, the city of Brandenburg, to be able to start finalizing what kind of money we're talking about. We cannot get that amount of money. We can't get that information without some talking piece in place to be able to ask for that. Right now, I'm pulling it from here. what we think, and I think we could be low.
Do you know how many businesses, based on licenses, that are in the city of Brandenburg city limits based on that?
I knew you were going to. I didn't bring that file with me.
So
Go ahead, Eddie.
is this something, so back in the construction days, there's certified payroll and different things to show what you're paying people. I mean, is there something even looking at that type of a mechanism of how you find out what a person working here, what their salary is for the time that they're here, to be able to justify that?
The way I understood it is when that form comes to us, that's what they got to work on too. And David, you can speak for yourself, but I would, as a business owner inside of the city limits, would have to report the year's earnings. Quarterly. Quarterly of all of my people. So it wouldn't be like I'm telling you what this person made and what that person made. It'd be a summary, and then I have withheld this percentage out of their paychecks, and then I cut the check to the city on behalf of their paycheck.
How I did that a little bit, Eddie, I went to several of the construction firms that do a lot of work in the communities, in different states, things like that. And they say it's not uncommon where they'll have an employee, and the way their breakout is, it says Jefferson County, J-Town. It breaks down Shively. They had 1 month, they'll have up to 4 to 5 payments made to a different city out of a person's check.
Yeah, that's where I was going, because that's kind of what I was used to.
Yeah.
Yep.
My wife.
Yeah, I mean, I had the same. I mean, I even when I worked in Louisville and lived in Brandenburg, lived in Meade County. I always say Brandenburg. I've never actually lived in Brandenburg. I've always lived in Meade County.
Close enough.
But close enough. I mean, I'm only a mile outside. So, so the point is that I had, Jefferson County occupational tax on my check, even though I didn't. I just worked there. So that's part of it, right? When I became a remote employee. It was like having a little bit of a raise, because I didn't have to pay that. And it's not a huge amount. It's the least amount of money you pay to any municipality for anything.
Well,
but it's still.
But so I have a different spin on this, David. You can like it or not like it. If the state is going away from income tax, period, why would the city want to impose? Like, the state giveth and the city taketh away. I'm throwing this out there because the state wants to go away from an income tax on a person's pay. So you're left with the other resources in order to align with the direction that the state's going. Why not go after one of the other revenue sources, or create a new revenue source that does not tax the employee or the worker in the state? It taxes the efforts of the business, the property, or something to that effect. And while I realize that nobody wants to raise a tax, and this is a useful way of the word, I don't disagree with that, why not look for that somewhere in between the demand and the expected growth? I know that we have a growth. You said there's 90 empty lots. I know that was an argument that came out through social media and some other stuff. Like, we have now what used to be one big piece of property that's going to be taxed as 90 little pieces of property, but that development is over 10 years. And we won't,
or longer.
Yeah, or longer, and you won't see the return on that. But you also have to maintain the current level of infrastructure. So how do you get to that? And to your point, you said, why do I charge a 4% on the people that live here? Is there not another way to consider that and be in alignment with the direction the state's going?
We do have some options. I mean, we're looking at, but there's only certain areas that funding can be put into general fund. You can't take water and sewer monies, put into your general fund. You can't take I don't tip. I know the lettering, but some of the road funds, some of you can't sidewalk here. They all can't just be intermingled.
They got different colors
into their own fund.
They call that colors of money.
That's why we have their certain account for each one of them, and I guess that's some of the things that I wanted to touch on. I hope you'll give me a little latitude in this right here.
Yeah, go ahead.
That Miller Woods subdivision, which has been brought up, that we should be happy. Well, people don't realize the city of Brandenburg, and that's where some of this general fund funding would help us. We were able to be a partner in that coming together.
Sure.
Being able to fund a way to put the water and the sewer, things like that into that park. And we've done that for a long time. That started with Mayor Joyner, and he and several River Cliff, River's Edge, with a lot of the new subdivisions in this area. They were very important steps to help that person put this into place. And we want to be able to continue to that growth. But like you just said, that payback is going to be so long term. Yeah, there's 98 housing lots in that subdivision. There's about 12 houses built right now in that range. 3 of them have sold. You know, that 3 going towards that, and our pay on our property tax is so limited what we can charge on that, and we don't want to make it hard on a person building or buying a new house to be against that. I do have some options. I'm going to reach out to our county judge and our magistrate that reached out to me, and I hope he'll call me back after our first talk.
Ring. Hold on. Hi. No, I'm just kidding.
So, our goal is to be able to maybe, instead of the county, and people don't always realize the citizens of Brandenburg pay county property taxes and city property taxes. So it's not like you're getting one or the other. To be a citizen in Brandenburg, you are paying for both. And some of the things that I've heard out are, number one, why don't you get grants? Well, grants are the greatest thing in the world. The easiest part of the job is getting approved for it. We got a grant to help with the water plant. We just doubled the size of the water plant. Got $1 million grant.
Yeah.
To build it, we borrowed, previous administrations borrowed the funds to build that. We've gotten done. We've been completed. You know how much money we've collected from our grant? 0. We're paying interest every month on $1 million loan.
Wow.
And this is some of those areas where, how do you make this up? There's no making it up. Paying this interest, it was the greatest thing we could do. And I applaud Mayor Joyner, Mayor Claycomb. It got us in the ball game. We got it done. Hold on, I'm on a roll right now.
You're good. I was going to throw you a bone. Too. The growth that you're talking about, that does take time, was also part of the comprehensive plan as far as being able to build and have the ability to bring in new homes and growth, because a lot of Meade County was farmland. So I just want to throw that bone in there. This was an approved comprehensive plan that has been in ever evolving, but go ahead.
And we do have 4 other grants waiting for us to be funded to move forward on some of those projects. And one of the misnomers that's out there, and people, it always is Nucor's fault. Well, I want to kind of address that a little bit. The city of Brandenburg does sell water to Nucor for domestic purposes only. When I talk about domestic, that's water in your kitchen, water in your bathrooms, and it's it's nothing to do with their production. So when you hear them fussing at Nucor because the county runs out of water, they don't get any water from the county.
That's right.
And number 2, we are limited in the number of gallons that they take from the city of Brandenburg. So they are not a reason for this to have to be a price. And I'm going to explain all that. Number 1, that grant is taking care of the water. And we're able, we're producing, we have the ability to produce 2 million gallons of water a day. So we're ahead of the curve for growth.
Good.
Number 1.
You got to have that in place. You have to have infrastructure in place. You can't just start building. This was a conversation Eddie and I were having. You can't just start building. You have to have the infrastructure in place to support it. It's the same problem we had with the water. And I want to be very clear to the people out there. I'm not taking a side here, but as evidenced by our own infrastructure for county water, we ran out of water because everybody turned on the faucet all at the same time. If that infrastructure is not in place, you should not be extending water lines or doing anything else unless that infrastructure. That was the problem that Troy campaigned on, about strong infrastructure, conservative growth, so that you have the stuff in place to not just put a temporary Band-Aid on, but it's a long-term fix.
Not 5-year growth, but 20-year growth.
That's right.
Or longer.
And I will stand behind that every day, regardless of who's in office, because that's a leadership decision that has to go into all of your management decisions, because otherwise it's you're just trying to look good for the moment instead of the long term, which is what's going to really impact the children and everything else, to your comment earlier.
I want to get to the wastewater side. This is the most important part of it. We do have a deal agreement with the city of Brandenburg and Nucor to take their wastewater. When I talk about their wastewater, it's the domestic side only. We don't take anything that could have an effluent that would hurt us. Eddie knows he's got a brand new sewer treatment facility out there. It's probably 5 or 6 years old now. I say new. It's still new in my book, but
that's
got
new.
to go out there for. We just completely redid the city wastewater treatment plant. Yes, was there a reason? We did downsize. We had 15 acres of ground. We were able to sell 9 acres of that ground to Nucor, built a brand new facility, state of the art, did away with the lagoon systems. Eddie's has got tanks above ground. We are the same scenario pretty much. We're called a aerated ditch above ground where the fluids are actually in there and the solids. And
We should do a podcast and go live and tour that facility.
I make sure it's in the winter.
Yeah, no, I know it'd be
Please
pretty
do.
steamy. We'll wear masks, but go ahead.
But the thing about that was everybody, and this has been recently on another show that is really bashing the city of Brandenburg for giving away our sewer treatment plant. And we did not give away those 9 acres of ground. Well, one of the things that came from that deal and agreement was that Nucor wanted to send us that waste. At first, there was no deals to do any water or sewer for them. They were going to be self-contained. Mayor Joyner worked with them, told them we could do it. This is how we made the deal.
Yeah.
So moving forward, we were able to take that 9 acres off, which we didn't need to bush hog. We were able to let Nucor have that. And this is where the misnomer is. The county makes a payment to the city of Brandenburg every year and I forget the exact amount, but will total $4.5 million. And what that does, the sewer plant, is that we just completely state of the art, brand new. We're 3 times the size where we were before,
Sure.
and we've got room for growth. We are spending $9 million. Not the $25 million that's being put out there. It's $9 million. Nucor is paying for half of that sewer plant.
That's 4.5.
It's not costing the citizens of the county anything except for where Judge Lynn agreed to partner on this endeavorment for 50% of whatever it took. And the only thing the county's been out is where there's been some overruns or some cost changes, and they came up with their 50%. The other $4.5 million is being paid for by the city of Brandenburg. Now, I want to explain this. It's very important. People need to understand. The city of Brandenburg was under a judicial order from the Division of Water. We were out of compliance in our wastewater treatment plant. Without this, we could have been out the $9 million. So really and truly, the citizens of Brandenburg, our rates did go up, but we got a brand new facility. We've got the best utilities going in for a small community as there is anywhere. And I want people to understand, it's not, we're getting it for half the cost.
Yep. So, but that also goes towards the growth of the community and the county. So, I guess the question is that argument, all true, all factual, leads to where do we go in the future? Do you see this going away as we get closer to becoming a state that's an income tax free state for state income tax, so that you can be dependent upon the property taxes because of the growth? Or how does that work conservatively with and liberally with the growth of the city, so that the use of funds are long-term, long-lasting?
Well, I guess I look at that 2 ways, really and truly. Number one is I've never wanted this to be something that's forever.
Sure.
There's not one thing that our council has gone together on this in this discussion. We don't want a checking account with big number in it. We want a checking account that we're paying for something that's being upgraded, and something that's good for the citizens. I know Mark and them in the county parks committee been looking at pickleball courts.
Yeah.
The city of Brandenburg has a site basically ready if we have funds to help with that.
Or a dog
that
park.
helps everybody.
Or a
you
dog
know.
park.
Or dog park.
Or isn't that, that was looked at.
Or a giant play park similar to the one you see on your way to Corydon.
Oh yeah, wouldn't that be nice?
We would love that too.
Yeah, that's a toughie though. That's an expensive nut.
Where can
there.
we park a gambling boat? Let me figure that out. So.
Hey, we have a lake.
Yeah. Put it in the middle of the lake
Right in the middle of the
paddle
lake.
right up. Yeah.
But our goal.
Wait a minute. I'm just kidding, board of directors.
Yeah. You gotta watch it now. This is public.
And that's our goal. I mean, this is something that, if there's a way that we could work with the county government, that the property taxes that they take, and that could be maybe put together as one fee to come into the city to take, this would probably alleviate where we would be. But without these numbers and getting forward, we're still kind of getting this ordinance, but there's got to be a day, as Mark mentioned earlier, it takes money to operate. I don't care what it is, what your business is. If you don't do the right things now, you're going to pay for it forever. So, and I applaud my council. I mean, this was a hard decision.
Yeah.
I mean, we all knew it going in, and it affects us all. I mean, every one of us were the same people, and that's who is exempted. We're not sure yet. So
Hey, I can attest to some of that as well. You talked about pay now or pay forever. With Doe Valley in perspective, is they went, multiple years, 20 years that they didn't do anything with their infrastructure. And so we have major infrastructure needs out there. So we're trying to find ways of paying for that. So I can definitely understand that from that community perspective. It's really no difference.
Yeah, it really isn't any difference.
No.
It's, I mean, you all are technically an HOA, right? But that's really just bringing a community. It's another form of city, right? When you really put it down, you're not incorporated as a city.
Correct.
You're incorporated as an HOA, a community. But it's really the same thing. You're trying to provide amenities and services for your community. You're trying to provide amenities and services for your community. A little bit more open, right? A little more closed. But
they're not incorporated in city.
Right,
And
right.
that's the difference.
Right, they're not an incorporated city, but they are incorporated as an HOA, right? As you have to have your license, your state certificate.
And they operate under a 501c3, so they're.
Are they a 501c3? No,
It's a 501c, but it's
or something.
C9, yeah, but it's
Probably
It's
different
one of
from
the. It's one of the C's.
Yeah.
but it's in a way that it's they're not just spending all their money to come back to zero. They can save money and put it back to handle long-term projects,
Right.
or to David's point, a reserve or build a reserve. But that's all difficult to do.
But the city's not looking for a big reserve.
No, I know that.
We want to be able to take that funding as we see it. Maybe we get enough money out of this fee, and that where we have to have this in place to be able to get all of our numbers together to give that final. Maybe we looked at the chart from the Kentucky League of Cities on the cities that have these fees in place or a tax in place, and a lot of people call them taxes. A lot of people call them fees.
It's my thing, right? I'm going to call it a tax, and I'm okay if you call it a fee.
And that's how it's all listed. And we broke that down. We took them. And there are cities in there that are 1%. One city is 0.6%, and that's Bowling Green. There's a reason that it could be less when you look at Bowling. But when you look at us across the board, even our neighboring communities, we're half what they are. So, we don't know that that's the number we need. Maybe it's less, but maybe there's a cap we put on it for each business. Maybe there's ways for us to make this work for everybody. We're not going to make everybody happy. I'm not promising that sitting here, but we're going to do our best to do the right thing. And that's from the whole city council and the employees of the city that I'm telling you I'm proud of, and I know Eddie is too. We take the heat, but those guys and ladies take the pressure that everybody come in there upset, and I applaud them for doing a great job. And our guys that are in that hole at 100 degrees fixing a water leak, 7 degrees below zero in that hole fixing a water leak.
Dirty jobs.
I mean,
That's a fact.
people just don't realize what our employees do for us, and probably some of the underpaid people that we've got. And unfortunately,
Absolutely.
And let me touch that while we're here. The city in our budget has a 3% increase for our employees. And if I don't maintain what I've got and improve the ones I've got, I'm losing every day by starting over with a new employee, unfortunately. And I'll justify that 3% across the board to them. And the mayor doesn't vote. I'm going to tell you that straight up. I'm not like the fiscal court. The mayor doesn't vote unless it's a tie vote. And if you look at my record from 2007 to 2014, anytime we had a 3-3 vote, we went back and studied it further. If it's that split, we've got something wrong.
Yeah.
So to me, making that final decision, I'm not afraid to make them, but I think it needs to be reviewed. If there's a 3-3 tie,
That's a good point. It's a good point. There's obviously not quite. It's not quite the answer if you don't at least have if you don't have more than half.
I agree.
In agreement.
And I may have taken something and said it in a way that you interpreted, that Eddie interpreted totally different. So that's where you iron those out.
Yeah.
So I know, and we started talking about this a little bit. I know you're probably wanting.
No, you're good.
But I want to kind of go back a little bit. Something that I think Steve brought up earlier. The difference between a consumption tax and an income tax. I mean, this is or an income fee, if you will, right? This is whether you call it a fee or a tax. It's on the income, right? It's based on the dollars that a person makes for doing a job. Did you all consider doing the council to consider? I say you all, but as the council, did you all consider going to a consumption based, like a 1% sales tax or something like that?
We felt like when we talked about it briefly, and we looked at multitudes of ways to make it and cuts that we could make, that we did make, and to get to the black number one, the sales tax part of it for the city of Brandenburg was a lot more mechanism. I guess is one of the ways that I look at. Did we have the ability as a city with three people to take care of that? How do we monitor that? How do we take that in? Because I know Steve asked that question. How do you hold that information securely? And those are the things we look at. And number one was this was something we couldn't get our hands around on a sales tax side of it. Put it in ourselves because the Kentucky had the opportunity where you could pass it was like you could put in place for a project. Say we wanted to build the Harrison County splash park.
Right.
You could fund that through your community by putting a tax on. Owensboro did it on the riverfront. You put a tax on for 5 years, 3 years, whatever you felt like that needed to be. And when it was paid, it went away.
Right.
But, that's not real receptive in Kentucky. And
well, I mean, I don't think income tax is either.
I know that too.
It's just that you don't see it every time you go buy something, right? You just every time you get a paycheck. So I guess 52 times a year or 26 times a year you see it versus every time I actually walk in and get a stick of gum, right? But at the same time, I'm all for moving things to a consumption tax where we're paying for something, because I have more control over what I consume versus what I need to earn money. So I can't avoid a tax if it's an income tax, but I can avoid a tax if I just become more frugal and spend less. Right? Don't go buy these things. I know that's not what a municipality wants to hear, because they want to hear that people are going to spend normally. But at least at that point, I have a way of controlling what I have to spend on taxes. Again, going back to our original discussion earlier, I'm going to make sure I come back to this. We know that municipalities, governments in general, need funds. We have a city government, or Brandenburg has a city government, because they believe that they need that level of government in place to provide the services and the needs for the community. Same as Doe Valley has an HOA. You do that because you need to maintain. That's the only way you can maintain having security and you have to have a mechanism to build to pay for that. It's not going to just be on the honor of everybody, because it'll fall apart. So people have to be able to pay. And if people do not want to pay this fee, they don't like this fee, then they need to look at how they need to look at how whether or not they really want a city government or an HOA in place. Not that I'm not speaking about against HOAs, but if people want the services that they want, then they have to be able to put the mechanism in place. That's what the government's doing. They're providing that mechanism to be able to pay for these things and collect the money from the whole community to pay for those things that the community has said that they want or need in order to exist.
And,
so
we feel like we are elected for a reason. We feel like the people feel like, they're putting their bang in the book behind us. We will not make everybody happy. We're going to do the best job we can. I mean, look at the turmoil in our politics today everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
So
it's okay to disagree.
Wait
It's
till
okay
Thursday.
not to
Wait
agree
till
with what's
Thursday.
happening. It's okay not to agree with any of this,
Mm-hmm.
right? Whether you're for it or against it, it's okay if we disagree, as long as we can have the conversation about it.
And come with a
That's
solution.
the whole idea. Because if we can talk,
Yeah.
then we can kind of come to a different solution or a tweaked solution,
Yeah.
and that's what you're asking for. You're asking for people to come talk to you.
it's in paper.
And so
Yeah.
that you can make those, so that you can take that input and say, okay, well, wait a minute, maybe we didn't think that part through a little
Hey,
bit.
I see something, but that ain't from me. That's somewhere else. So that ain't from the messenger. You're all right. So, real quick, I just did a little math problem. If there's 3,000 workers and the city limits of
That's residents. That's not work.
no, I said if there's 3,000 workers, which I'm sure there are 3,000 employees working inside of the city limits of Brandenburg, given the businesses and activity, if there were, and the average pay was $50,000 a year, that's $150 million. That means that would be $1.5 million of revenue, and under this plan, what would you do? What would be the immediate need for this 1.5 million from the perspective of the council members and you as the mayor?
The first thing we would do is, number one, is we would be a refund to those employees because we are not looking for $1.5 million.
I got it, but if just assuming that was the number, right? Because you got a lot of teachers, you got a lot of businesses that are in Meade County. Even if it was half of that, 500. Let's say it generated 500. What are you plan to do with those revenues in 2025 as a part of the 25-26 budget once you start seeing those revenues? Because you won't see them till the first quarter of 25. If you start 1 January, it'll be January, February, March before everybody makes their first payment.
That's what our goal from July to January is. Number one is if we work this out with the citizens and the businesses and the employees, we want to be able to go forward with. We want to do those meetings. This is what July to January was for.
Sure.
To sit down with the businesses that we're working with to let them know this is not to hurt you. This is decided to make what we can do for you better. And that's where we prioritize almost a new comprehensive plan for this by itself, on top of what we're ability to do. Number one, to help these other expansions of developments to be able to. I mean, we're all looking for how do we get, a bigger park settings where we can do something with a new business park area or another industrial site. To people, some people don't want us to change at all. Maybe some other
You're not
things
going
are
to be able to
needed.
stop that. You're not going to be able to stop that. Yeah. And then to your point earlier, the minute something breaks, it's not a simple bill, especially in today's inflation. You can't just write a check. And today, if something breaks, you might actually have to take out a loan because it's expensive.
Well, we have found that loan, unfortunately, is costly also.
Yeah.
And it's the only thing, and I applaud it. Please, and if Brian and Ronnie are listening to this or going to listen to this,
Yeah.
I want them to understand this is nothing a bash to any of the previous administration, council members, anybody. It's doing business. This is a business. Things change every day. Just like we mentioned, the barrel of mosquito spray.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who would have thought of 55-gallon barrel of mosquito spray, $700 and some odd dollars.
Yeah.
Went up from $300 and something. And 2 employees, a truck, and you're paying them overtime
Yeah.
to do that on Thursday nights. So pray for no rain on Thursdays, because that's what makes mosquitoes worse, and that's the day we spray. So
Yeah, not
It's
good.
supposed to rain.
you know, we're not saying this is the fix for everything.
Sure.
We are open the door, and I'm telling you, I've had some great conversations with people that it took a few minutes for them to air out before we got to be able to do what we needed to do, and that was get to the point. And I appreciate, and the talk's more for my benefit than it is for that person calling in, because I want to hear what they have to say.
Absolutely. So I do have a chat in here, and it talks about one of our citizens that live in the county, and they drive to Louisville, and they pay 2.2%. They call it a tax, but it's the same. It's the same thing. They're paying city. The city gets that money. I know it's in Radcliffe too. I had to do that when I was at a temporary job in transition, and it came out. I'm like, what is this? And I was like, holy cow! You know, there is a cost to do business. I cannot argue that. I don't think anybody can argue that. What is the solution? Folks, I tell you, don't argue and be mad either. If they're willing and open to open up for other options and solutions, then bring a solution to the table to help solve the problem, or your checkbook, one of the two. I don't know, but I mean, I don't know what the real answer is for the long term, but I do know, if you haven't seen the county plan and the growth for the requirements for the county plan and the infrastructure requirements, it comes with a bill.
Big bill.
A big bill. And Brandenburg's a part of that. It's not for the whole county, but Brandenburg is a piece of it. I don't have any applause or any other negative or positive to say one way about it. It's just something that we're going to either have to come together. So would you be interested in doing any like town halls building up to the final decision in order to do an open forum outside of the city government? You know how Troy went around and did town halls and stuff.
Well, that's what our whole goal was. And I mean, I'm not saying, I guess one of my first thoughts are, I think we have to do the second reading for us to accumulate the numbers that you pulled off the top of your head.
But you're going to do a second reading without a vote.
That's what I'd like to present to the council.
Okay.
But I think the second reading, and I'll find that from our attorney, and we read it, have the people that attend the meeting, if they have, after they hear the second version. That's the key to this, folks. It's a whole different
And we'll try to
document.
get that out so you could read it in advance. It's not like a surprise the night of or anything.
No.
Yeah, so I know that you've been working with us, and I greatly appreciate the cooperation between the City of Brandenburg and the Messenger KY and Meade Media Group. It's been great, and we're grateful to get this kind of communication and education out, because I think it's important to the sense of a community paper. But
I mean, it's not rocket science.
Yeah.
We're trying our best to make the city better, that people are proud of, and we want it to be fair. And we want, I mean, is it fair that any of these businesses come into Brandenburg and use up what you produce for them, and it costs that employee nothing? Every day your employee comes to Brandenburg, it's costing the businesses right now.
I mean, I would be interested, and this is just me putting this out there, I would be interested in who's going to be exempted from it. So, because, I mean, when you say that, it makes me wonder, okay, well, if that's the case, and that's part of the case, well, if you have exempted employees, well, now it's not everybody's paying their fair piece, right?
especially
it depends on how that's going to be structured, whether or not you can consider that
because
fair,
the exemption
right?
on the first one was a little misleading on the business side, because the 3 banks were exempted. And there I might have to call here in a minute, throw in my flag.
yeah.
We
Flag on the flag.
the reason we see that, because they're already paying a deposit tax and to the city of Brandenburg on the bank deposits, and that's a pretty large amount of money that's coming from the banks. And that was one of the things that popped out in my head, because I asked that question, and that's where we were trying to keep from taxing one person on something just that's by itself. And that's the reason that was, but this will be a whole different group of thing. And I don't think you'll see it be a very big group, if it is any, to be honest with you, that I haven't seen it. But like I mentioned earlier, one of the things that I think I'm not against, that I talked with one person this morning, and it was a great idea. if I realize that this number is a whole lot bigger than we anticipated, we cap them.
Yeah.
Not to pay above X, you
Right.
know, from any business. You know, if you had it may have been a company that was 500 employees, and unfortunately, there's what
It sounds like there's a lot of things still to consider before this thing is really done. So
that's the whole.
I think
key.
the scary thing is that you're on second reading, and that's a scary thing because second reading means you can vote on it.
Well,
And
we
if the
still got
county
2
decides to
weeks.
vote, right, they vote.
Well, we don't have to vote. We
No,
can
they don't
read it.
have to, but if the council decides to vote, they vote.
That's true.
Yeah. So
I
think
would
that's the
almost hold
scary.
up. Yeah,
That's the scary piece of it. That's like, okay, we're going to have this second reading. Well, now you're ready to vote. You've done your legal work
Due
to
diligence.
be
It's done and done.
You've done you're at that point. So to call this a second reading and you rate it, and now it's like if the council decides before the council council persons decided they can just vote on it, and that's that. I mean, I'm not saying they're going to. I trust. These are people. These are our these are our
Citizens,
neighbors.
they live
these
it,
are
yeah.
this is part of our family, right?
It is community.
But you have to, so I'm just saying it's a little scary when you think about this as a second reading, and there's a lot of questions that we just talked about that maybe it's not really part of it. That
maybe I can give an update on that down the road. Once
Yeah.
I have the document.
yeah,
And
that makes a
really
big
the-
difference.
yeah, and we're all playing a little bit of a speculation game right now, right?
Should
that we
make it
because we
so
haven't
much
seen it.
better. I mean,
Yeah, I agree. But I don't want to just. I want to make sure that you understand that that's still a little scary for a citizen to think about.
it's
it
scary
like
for me.
that. Yeah.
I mean, this doesn't want to go down David Pace's tombstone. You know,
Here lies
taxer
the
of
man
all.
Definitely
that
don't want to
raised your
send you to
taxes.
the tombstone.
Yeah.
But it's just look, we have these conversations. We don't have again. I'm sure there's a lot of pieces of this that I don't agree with it on it. I'm sure there's things you don't agree with it on it as
why it's being
well.
redone.
But that's why it's why you're going back through it, and that's why we're sitting here having this
Yeah.
conversation about it. And talk, but this is the way we this is how we should interact.
Well,
I think this is the way we should all be talking about things.
Before
say
somebody
one-
throws a big old article out there and blasts with opinion, I think this has been a good approach, and I do look forward to more open forum and dialogue for the people. And you heard it from David; he said, "Call if you got a question. Call.
Yeah.
Don't just blast it out on social media. Go ask the questions.
It's not time
make
to
the hard
speculate
call.
on your own.
What's your one more
You
thing?
can
I'm
get the
sorry about
answer.
that.
Well, the one thing is we want people to realize this is not in concrete. I mean, it is a working document, and we did it by the process.
Yeah.
It wasn't like
Okay.
we went around and Eddie, what's your thought? Mark, what's your thought? I wanted it to be put out there.
Yeah.
Then let people, that's why you do it. And then they have the ability for that 30 days to get hold of our 6 council members, myself as mayor, call us, come by City Hall,
And that's why you're there to representing people. So that is a frustrating thing because we talk about this with term limits. It's like, well, you have term limits because, well, we don't like what people are doing. Well, then go run against them.
Then
and,
go vote.
And go vote and make sure that you're part of the process.
Well,
and
we have less
don't
than
sit on
10% of the
sidelines,
voter
right?
population show up.
everybody
Yeah.
has term limits.
Everybody does. Every election has, there's nobody that's keen, nobody's king for life.
Wow, that
was
made it
finally
into the
gone, but it made it
conversation.
back, so-
It made it.
Well,
I didn't know
we have the jab every now and then.
Oh my gosh!
Of course,
who brought
that
in?
did backfire on the previous person
It
because
did.
there
It
were
did.
shirts produced that said "Hail King David." So I almost wore that today. So
Final thoughts, Eddie and David, as we wrap up the show. David, any final? Eddie, any final thoughts for today going forward?
oh, no,
4th of
just-
July, Independence Day.
Everybody have a great 4th of July. Please come out to Doe Valley and see our fireworks display this weekend. Come out for the 5K run. We'd
Awesome.
love to see you. And good luck, Mayor David. I know you got a big challenge on your hands.
yeah, that's what you get the big bucks for, I guess.
wait a minute, wait a
They
minute.
always know.
Both of
Wait
them,
a minute,
right?
what big bucks?
Both bucks.
Yeah, I don't know what that is. I haven't gotten there,
$2.
so.
And,
but-
any closing comments from you, David, for the city of Brandenburg and for today's podcast?
Like I've said to you gentlemen in the past, I enjoy doing this with you all. It's First time I went to Steve's house, I was a nervous wreck. Why would they call me to come, to be on? And I've had a ball every time since we do them at the fair. But please understand, folks, we're here to do what you want. We're going to do our best to do the best for the most.
Now, you got the fair coming up too. There's a lot of it. The fair, the Meade County Fair is coming, everybody.
It's here.
And it is. It's already here. They're breaking ground and making way for the rodeo. There's just going to be a ton of activity. Stay tuned to the Messenger. If you subscribe and you're a subscriber to the Messenger, you're going to get the fair catalog in the Messenger. It's about 4,000 copies.
I want to thank Steve and the Messenger.
Thank you.
We back where we needed to be, put it together as a team. And it's worked out perfect so far. So
looks like a fabulous catalog. We just got the cover finalized, and it's up to the printer. So it's coming. We're trying to get it out to the 11th. I know we'll be posting the updates for the registrations coming up on the website this week. And then, David, we'll have you back on a couple weeks out for a couple more podcasts just to build up to it with Mark and I. So you guys are really got to stay tuned to what's happening right here at the Messenger. Mark, you got any final thoughts?
No, I just want to wish everyone a happy 4th of July, a safe 4th of July. I know there's a lot of us out there that like doing our own fireworks and things, and and it's all, and I think it's a great thing to do. And but be safe. Accidents happen, and we just make sure you're safe. Make sure you have a way to put it out if you need to. But have a great time and enjoy yourself.
Outstanding. Thanks, Mark. Hey, listen, thanks for tuning in today. We got such a short time left, but I tell you, go to the website, meadecountyky.com. You can watch us if you don't have a Facebook, or you can just go to Facebook and check us out at The Messenger KY. You guys have a great rest of your day.
Good night, everyone.
See you later.
Thank you.
Thank you.